Hello, my name is Chase Martin, and I'll be doing the media's right to free speech for my oral presentation for Journalism 1 CRN 32410 for Dr. Nancy Branscombe. The next slide pertains to the First Amendment and what exactly it means. The First Amendment of the Constitution impacts journalism significantly. It states that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging of freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. The U.S. Constitution, Amendment 1, Article 1. In Chapter 12 of Dynamics of News Reporting and Writing, Foundational Skills for a Digital Age, the words speech and press are also very highlighted and crucial to journalists, with the press having the ability to get information from people and convey it to a larger audience without government interference. Feel like page 210. In Chapter 12, the author indicates that journalists should use shields, not swords. This also means that journalists should work inside the legal parameters of the law and not outside of them. The chapter also indicates that the amendment is a living thing that constantly evolves. And as a journalist, you need to be aware of how it works and what it does and doesn't do for you. There are many misconceptions to some journalists that the First Amendment will allow us to develop, including the misconception that freedom of the press provides them with access to areas that are off limits. Feel like page 210. Yet, the First Amendment should be considered a defensive right, not an offensive one. If you obtain information legally, no one can stop you from publishing anything that they want, and or nothing bad can happen to you after one publishes a work. I will continue by establishing some legal court cases of note that involve journalism. One being the Neer versus Minnesota Supreme Court case of 1931. J. Neer, an editor of a Minnesota newspaper, scrutinized the governor's office by stating that he was involved with gangsters. The governor issued an injunction towards him to avoid the leakage of information that was involved to the public. Once Neer appealed his court case, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Neer, stating that it violated his First Amendment right of free speech and of the press. The government issued and stated that one cannot censor writing in any form. Another issue that involved in 1971 was the New York Times Company versus the United States of America Supreme Court case of 1971. During the time of great controversy regarding the Vietnam War, the New York Times obtained information and a copy of government officials relaying discourse involving how the war was going. An injunction was soon issued because it stated that it would endanger the national security to the United States of America if the information was leaked. The New York Times appealed and said that prior restraint violated the First Amendment right of free press. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of the New York Times 6-3. The Chief Judge Warren Burger said that the decision was based upon the respect and freedom the First Amendment allowed in all circumstances, including upon the government officials and how the war was going. Another issue is the Code of Ethics for Journalists. The Code of Ethics for Journalism rely on the moral code that an individual uses to guide their actions. In Chapter 13 of the Dynamics of News Reporting and Writing, Foundational Skills for a Digital Age, ethics in journalism is defined as a strong moral code that creates a relationship that is mutually beneficial for each person whom you interact with and gets a proper sense of who you are and act the way that you do. Chapter 13 also gives many ways to stay inside the confines of the moral code in journalism, the first being the golden mean. The golden mean is the middle ground for all people involved in a moral situation. It seeks to balance the needs and wants for potential negative outcomes and also is the sweet spot for decision making for quality outcomes. Number 2 would be the principle of utility. The principle of utility is the highest net benefit in each interaction. It seeks to minimize the harm and maximize the gain for most people that are involved. The veil of ignorance considers for no bias and for all people to be considered the same and treated the same. Honesty and accuracy are also very important in journalism. Honesty is being upfront with the people that you interview, keeping promises, and being fair. Accuracy is important because You have to verify your information and avoid misinformation for credibility purposes. Overall, one of the most important aspects of the moral code is compassion. Diving into a story without understanding its effects on another person can be extremely hurtful to the person being interviewed, so be cautious and compassionate to the situation. Thank you for listening to my oral presentation for Journalism 1 at Athens State University. I hope you enjoyed it and I have enlightened you upon the First Amendment in journalism, the legal confines of the First Amendment, legal court cases involving journalism, and the ways journalists can stay inside the moral code. Thank you.